Let's see, is it recording? There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Friday Tech Focus. Eunice Riesberg's here. I'm Sam Bowers. I'm the consultant for continuing education. Eunice, the consultant for our Northeast district, who also moonlights as a CE presenter when we have something sort of techie we want to talk about. And I feel like our last few Friday Tech Focuses have had an AI slant, and this one is no exception. So NotebookLM is what we're talking about today. I gotta admit, this is not one that I know anything about, so I am excited to learn a little more. I've been hearing about it, so some tips and tricks on how to dig in is something I'm looking forward to. Thanks, Eunice.
Whoops. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. This one is pretty new, and something I'm kind of excited about. This has been fun. Google dubs this as your personalized AI research assistant, and then goes on to say that you should think smarter, not harder. This is the ultimate tool for understanding the information that matters most to you, built with Gemini 2.0, which is maybe a little grandiose. In Wikipedia's words, it's a research and note-taking online tool developed by Google Labs that uses artificial intelligence, specifically Google Gemini, to assist users in interacting with their own documents. It can generate summaries, explanations, and answers based on content that has been uploaded by those users. It also includes audio overviews, which summarize documents in a conversational podcast-like format. How could I not do this, right? So again, it's pretty new and still under development, so it may change before you play with it if you do. As usual for Friday Tech Focus, NotebookLM is available in the freemium model. Everything I'm going to show you today is available for free. The premium version availability is a little bit different than the usual, so I'll try to explain. NotebookLM Plus is available to Google Workspace as an additional product in conjunction with a paid Gemini for Workspace add-in. An enterprise version is available via Google Cloud with additional privacy and security features. And then just earlier this month, Google announced that NotebookLM Plus was now available for users through the Google One AI Premium subscription of $19.99 per month. So there are ways to get it, but it's not just paying for it by itself. It's a Google product, so it's just like signing into your email account or your Drive. You go to the URL and enter your credentials. It does not yet appear on the Google 9.app launcher in the upper right corner of your browser. I don't know if that's going to change in the future or not. The main screen displays your notebooks and gives you access to your settings. You see here, there aren't really very many settings to deal with. At this point in time, it's just whether you want a light or dark mode. I'll note here that clicking on the logo in the upper left takes you back to this welcome page. The available help, which is linked from the settings menu, looks like it's pretty good. And there's a link to join a Discord community of other NotebookLM users. I have not explored that. There's a sample notebook that's included with NotebookLM itself to get you started. The intro notebook includes samples and explanations of features, and I think it's a nice way to cover it all. You're not able to edit this notebook, but you can ask it questions about itself as you explore and play with live samples that they've created. Before I go on, I want to mention that bit of small print at the bottom of the page. It says that NotebookLM can make mistakes, so double check it. I feel like that warning should be visible on every chatbot I've used so far. In that left column, you'll see a list of all the sources that you've added to your notebook as you've added them. You can drag and drop files or just use the choose button to add from your computer. And of course, they make it easy to add information from your Google Drive. Most of the sources I've added have been by the URL. You can also just copy and paste things. This is a sample of one of the sources that I've added by URL. When I click on it, I'm given a summary that it creates, and then the complete text from the site. The double arrows at the upper right will close this display, taking me back to the page for the notebook that I'm in. The center chat section allows you to create notes, listen to an audio overview, or read a briefing on your notebook. The text you see here was created as a summary of everything that I had added to that notebook so far. This is also where you're able to ask questions, but I'm going to come back to that later. You can type into a note or paste into it. There's some basic formatting so you can make it look a little nicer and easier to read. The Studio section on the right is where NotebookLM creates things for you. When I grabbed this shot, I was creating an audio overview that I'd requested in the chat section. You'll see here that you can also ask it to create a study guide, an FAQ, a briefing doc, or a timeline. These are all based entirely on the sources and notes that you've added to that notebook. That audio overview took some time to create. Of course, I kept working on things while I was processing, and I didn't think to time it when I started, sometime mid to late afternoon, which wouldn't have helped me anyway because it was still running when I closed up for the day. It was ready the next morning, though I'm pretty sure it probably didn't take all night. It was nice that the cloud continues processing when my computer is shut down, right? This is the briefing doc NotebookLM created for me in the sources that I had accumulated. It's a pretty good summary of everything that I had there. And this is a study guide I asked for. It provided a quiz with an answer key, some essay questions, and a glossary. Now, this isn't something I'd likely use for a notebook like this, but it could be great for a student who's trying to review the notes and course materials that they've added to their notebook. Here's the FAQ I asked it to create. You'll notice that the results of these things are view only. They can be converted to another source as well, which might be a little redundant since that material is based on sources you already have in the notebook. And this is the timeline. You see, it's pretty detailed, but my topic is all something quite new. It would be interesting to see what it did with a topic that covered a longer lifespan. Okay, back to that audio overview. It's like having your own custom podcast. You just have to be patient because it does take a while to generate. So that may depend also on how much material you have to work with. Once it's finished, you can play it from within the notebook or download it. It seems like just a flashy idea, but I think it could be a useful way to review your material if that complements your learning style, or maybe a way to share your research with others. This is the one I did from my AI presentation notebook. I thought it seemed like it might be too easy for it to create a podcast about itself, so I didn't use that one. And we're going to see if this actually works to play this audio now.
All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're talking all about AI presentation makers.
Yeah, those have been getting a ton of buzz recently, huh?
Seriously, tons. And we've got a whole stack of articles and reviews and even some peeks into platforms like Gamma, Beautiful.ai, SlidesGo.
I feel like everyone is talking about these.
For real and for good reason. This AI can turn a whole YouTube video into a PowerPoint.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, and we'll unpack all of that. Plus, we'll even look at how AI can, like, coach you on your presentation delivery.
I'm excited to dive into all that. It's a fascinating area.
All right, let's jump into
Kind of fun, huh? Okay, so there's one more thing that I wanted to show you. Asking questions of your notebook. Once I had compiled a bunch of the articles in my AI presentation notebook, I no longer remembered which ones were free. So I asked it. And it gave me a list, which you'll see here, which I was then able to save as a note so I didn't have to look it up again. It was a lot easier than going through and rereading each one to say, okay, this one, this one, this one. There is no app for NotebookLM, at least at this time. There is a work being done on a dedicated app, but they haven't announced a project timeline, so I'm not sure when it might be available. While you can access NotebookLM on a mobile browser, the interface is not optimized for smaller screens, so it could limit some features and the ease of use. They recommend that you use it on a computer. I found a suggestion that you could use the Google Keep app on a mobile device to collect web clippings and then export them as a group to Google Docs, which could then be imported into NotebookLM as a source, which is kind of a roundabout thing to do, but it would work. So, of course, I took a look at it on my phone. It wasn't ideal, but it wasn't really that bad. I think I could work with it. I wouldn't want to do a lot with it, but I'd be able to add things that I needed to when I wasn't at my computer. Because I know for myself, if I don't want to lose those little light bulb moments that always happen at inconvenient times, I've got to make notes somewhere right away. And I don't have a screenshot, but I also tried this on my tablet, and I thought that view was actually pretty good. While a dedicated app would probably have features to make usage without a keyboard easier, I thought it was pretty usable. So, any questions?
So what am I trying to say? That little audio clip you played then was like those are AI voices
Yes.
reading an AI summary
Yeah.
about AI
About
tools.
the things that I had in my notebook. Yeah, it's weird.
I could see a
I
lot
thought
of
it
slightly
sounded pretty
more,
good.
yeah. Like I
And
was just uh I can see like some academic applications maybe. Like I had someone had asked me for someone from an academic library asked me for some research on a topic I had looked at a couple years ago.
mhm,
And so I was kind of going back through, a bunch of, I had downloaded some papers, I had looked through some more popular sources, and I kind of just had this big bundle of like, sorry, this is kind of a weird source list. Here you go. But like to throw that all in and say, like, summarize this for me, and then I can listen to it while I drive over to my meeting or something. That's really weird.
yeah, I thought so. And that is one way I could see maybe using it as a way to, you're prepping for a meeting and you put all your stuff in there and you want to do a review before you really need to talk about it. Just listen
Yeah.
instead of rereading everything. But
But then it is that whole like I am with always with AI, I'm so worried about
yes.
hallucinations, right? Or the like it completely made
hmm
this up kind of problem that it tends to have.
Yes. If you're going
But
to do that, you would definitely want to listen to it in its entirety while all the information is kind of fresh and you're
yeah.
sure, yes, that's what I remember putting in there. If you're going to use it for something else again later on, the same thing
Mhm.
with the quizzes and everything else. You need to make sure that's really what you wanted it to pull out of it. But it's interesting. There are some interesting things there.
Yeah, I love the even just kind of using it as a way to sort of collect ideas throughout a year, for
hmm
example, and then saying, hey, what are some of like summarize some of my ideas here? What have I been thinking about over the last year? Maybe it's
Right.
like summer reading programming or something like that. Give me some ideas.
And I like the fact that when you're asking it questions, it's just looking at the sources you've decided you're interested in. It's not searching who knows what on the web and saying, oh,
Yes.
here you go, here's the answer. It's like, no, I'm putting in stuff that at least I trust the source to start with.
Hmm.
And it's going to just help me go deeper into those particular things. So
I might
that I
have
liked. I like
I'm
being able to put everything in one place, but it's different.
I might have missed this while checking attendance, but do you ever have the option to say like, okay, here's some of what I've been thinking about this topic. What might I be missing? And have it go out to a bigger data source training set?
I don't think so.
So it's
I
limited.
didn't see that. It looks like it just really, all of that stuff is just with what you've put into it. So you've got to do the research, the putting of things in yourself.
Actually, I feel like this is kind of a nice tool for a control freak librarian. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like when you really feel like the sources do matter and you probably have a pretty informed idea of what's there or not, then to have it kind of go in and the different types of summaries that you can get is very
Yeah.
cool too.
You know what it's doing, as opposed to if I asked a similar question of ChatGPT, then the next question is going to be, okay, so what sources did you consult? I already
Right.
know what sources it consulted.
Right. Oh, well, I think this has a lot of interesting application, and I like the integration with the Google tools themselves. That's also
Yes.
handy. It'd be nice to
Yes.
see it a little bit more integrated into some of, like, the Keep is a good example. I use Google Keep a lot for different things, but then that sort of extra step of exporting, importing is kind of a
Yes.
hassle.
Although I will point out, for those of us listening here who are state employees, this is not part of our system. I had to do this on my personal Gmail account
I wondered about
at this
that because
point in
even
time.
like some of the Gemini stuff, I couldn't, which is
Right.
I think that's their broader web-based,
Right.
or their bigger data set AI tool.
Oh.
And they recently, NotebookLM started independently, right? Did they, and Google
It's
bought
part of
them?
no,
It
it's out
was
of
always
Google
been,
Labs.
okay.
So yeah. So it's always been designed to work with those other things, and it'll be interesting to see what they do going on, or again, tying it to other tools to take advantage of those connections.
Jay, did you have something you were going to add?
I, I wondered, what did you put any PDFs in there? Like, I'm wondering, like, if you had a bunch of things from a course you were doing, and maybe it might be really useful if it could look at all that stuff, but is it like, if you just find a, you know, is it just using text, or how does it know? I mean, if you, if it's something that's like a bunch of EBSCOhost articles or something, can it do that, or does it get
I
all?
did not try anything like that. Most of what I did, I pasted in a URL. Some of them were to PDFs, some of them were to articles. There were a few things, honestly, that it couldn't do anything with, and I think it had to do with the permissions on, if it was an article that they don't really let you just, import like that. Of
I mean,
course, you'd
it would be
be
awful
able to
handy.
highlight,
Yeah.
copy, and paste things in that way. So,
Well, yeah, if it can't like get to the text, if it locks, the PDF is
right.
like, you can't so it doesn't break that, but like if it's a PDF that's like open on the web kind of thing, it would work.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting. But like, if you had a bunch of that to go through, because I mean, there's a lot of that out there in coursework too.
Sure.
It might be worth it to have it summarize it. Then I could absolutely see some value of like turning it into an audio file. I mean, think about all the people that like probably do this, that read into a tape recorder and have it play back, already. And so this does that. It's pretty amazing.
And you'll see here, I don't know how well this translates with the share, but some of these things were just straight web page articles. There was something that was pasted text, and there was a YouTube video that I was able to link to. And it just, it tells you what your sources are and gives you information. The summary part was kind of nice for that. Then when I was looking at things, it's like, okay, I remember looking at that. What did it say? So I open it up and it gives me a little summary of it.
So I wonder if you could even, potentially hook up podcasts or something too.
Possibly. I don't see why that would be much different than that YouTube video. Just not something I tried.
Like, right. Like, does it, does it listen to a video that doesn't have a transcription? Like if it's not a YouTube that already has a transcription, I wonder what
I
it
have
does.
no idea. I didn't think
Yeah.
to ask about things like that.
Does it try
The
and
implications
summarize
are very,
a
very
view,
interesting, though, right?
a
Yeah.
visual medium and then tell you what it is would be, because that's
Mm-hmm.
always the joke. It's like, oh, you want to summarize a bunch of text, and AI can do that. You want to have it judge a picture, it can't. It couldn't tell you. It
I
can't
think
tell you
this
what a
is
cat is.
this feels to me, Eunice, like a sort of almost like Zotero 2.0. Like we were talking about Zotero a couple months ago, where you can
Mm-hmm.
collect stuff from all over the web and sort of build your own little library, and that's really handy and nice. But then this tool sort of goes the next step and summarizes it
And
for you. So,
and that was very intentional on my part.
mhm.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and throw in Zotero, since it was something, even though it was something old and I was looking to see if it had changed, but this seemed like a very exactly like the next step in that kind of tool.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
was
that's
me
a
looking
yeah.
out further than usual in my planning. I'm sure you're amazed that I had a tool picked out 6 months ago.
I'm pleased as punch. No, I think this is a really interesting tool. I would hope maybe we can someday get it added on to the suite of stuff we can do for the state, because I don't see it having a ton of application for my personal
Right.
life necessarily. Maybe like vacation planning or something. You were just talking
Ooh,
about a
that would
trip you
be
have coming up.
interesting.
What if we
Sure.
throw everything about, oh, I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember, I'm going to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, throw everything about
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa into this notebook and then maybe have it summarize or create a potential itinerary or something. That'd
That
be
would be
interesting.
interesting. But as far as library land, I thought this would be something you could use as you're maybe creating policies. You could throw
Mhm.
in a bunch of samples and, ask it what are the commonalities, where are the differences, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what else, if it would be useful for, I don't know, program planning. You could put a lot of, I don't know. There are things that you could do with it. I just haven't thought of them all, I'm sure.
Yeah. I
It'd
think there's
be
a lot of interesting things there. Thank you
it'd
for
be
sharing
interesting
it
to
with
see if
us.
it could judge a lot, judge differences, and you could ask it which were pro and which were con or whatever.
Hmm.
That'd be interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, yeah, if it would look for pros and cons in the things, I'm not going to ask it to make judgment calls probably on what I'm talking about, or what I've put in, but look for those kind of pieces in the information I've included.
Well, I wonder if it can make a thesis statement after a bunch of stuff you put in there, which would be interesting.
Mm,
Or give you an idea, a direction, because that could be
sure.
yeah, interesting.
But as everything, again, is artificial intelligence. Take everything with a grain of salt, and make sure it's not hallucinating something. But I think some of that might be a little less likely than other things, because again, it's just working with the stuff you input. So you've got to work with the garbage in, garbage out. If you're putting in bad sources, it's not going to give you something very useful. But if you're putting in stuff that you need it to be in quality, then yeah, maybe.
The study questions were super interesting. That part was super interesting too. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And whether it's something that an instructor could use to at least get a first draft on questions
Mm.
and then turn
Yeah,
it
yeah,
into
yeah.
something else. I don't know. I
I mean,
didn't,
if you're just
again,
staring at
with
a
the
blank page, you'd
sources
like
I
to get
was
you started.
using,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? If you trusted your sources as a teacher, it should be okay. If you
And
know.
again, like
Yeah.
everything with the chat bots, it's maybe a starting point, but I don't know. That wouldn't have worked very good with the examples I used, so
Yep.
I wasn't really able to test it.
Well, thanks for playing around and thanks for sharing it with us today. If there are other questions, have I looked at the chat? I haven't seen any come through. My chat is hiding. Yeah, the audio clip, it's very interesting. So I thank you for taking the time to share it with us today. And who knows if you're watching this recording and everything has changed, let me know. And I guess we'll have to get Eunice to re-update the re-update the Friday Tech Focus. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy your weekend, stay warm, and